This is Isabella Breda, the editor-in-chief of The Echo, Cal Lutheran's student newspaper. The Office of the President sent an email announcement last month informing the university that traditional undergraduate classes are slated to be held in person during the spring 2021 semester. Among the commitments necessary to return to in-person learning, faculty members and staff will be required to return to campus. Our reporters, Joslyn, Buckley, and Jacqueline, Flores, got to catch up with health experts and university leadership to learn more about what a return to in-person instruction during a global pandemic would mean for the university's employees. Welcome, Joslyn.
So my name is Joslyn Buckley. I am a senior at Cal Lutheran University, and I'm majoring in communication with my emphasis in public relations and advertising.
And so last week you got to catch up with the provost. I guess what were some of her main charges for wanting to return to in-person instruction?
Yeah, so Dr. Nielsen was really adamant on it being Cal Lutheran's identity as a in-person university. We're not online. We're not set up to be online. We're set up to be an in-person community. And so COVID being completely virtual has kind of taken a hit on that. And so it's really getting back to who we are and in any way that would be safe for us to do.
Right. And so even though we're shooting to go back to fully in person, students have the opportunity to remain fully virtual, right?
Yes. So students can remain virtual or do a hybrid model. So they have that option, whatever is best for them.
Okay. But it's a little bit different for faculty. Can you explain a little bit more about what their options are?
Yes, so faculty are coming back to campus. There are a few exceptions to that. If they have medical concerns, they can go to a doctor's office or their medical provider and bring back a note, submit that to HR, and then essentially HR will go over it and they'll look into possible accommodations for that. One thing, though, that I really noted was that nothing is guaranteed. It's more of we'll look into it and see what could possibly be done.
Right. And so, if a faculty member was immunocompromised, is there any guarantee in writing that they could be completely exempt from teaching?
Not that I was made aware of. It was, like I said, go to your medical provider, bring in a note, and we'll look into it, and you'll be considered for accommodations.
And then another thing you noted in your story was that people or faculty members could opt for furloughs. Can you explain a little bit more about those options, or if they need to take a pay cut to pursue a different route?
Yes, so they have the option of also cutting back on their class schedules, in which case they would take a pay cut. They could also take a leave of absence, a furlough, and in which they would lose their pay. They would keep their position, which so they would still have a job to come back to, but they just wouldn't be paid.
So it'd be furloughed to 0 hours.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And so did you hear anything about if a faculty member was to get sick with COVID and for some reason can't teach the rest of the semester, what would happen?
I was not told any plans about that. A lot of things are still up in the air and are current conversations that they're trying to figure out right now. So it's an ongoing conversation that they're just looking into and trying to come up with all of these possible scenarios and possible solutions to them.
And so on the flip side of that, how you talk to some members of faculty leadership from Faculty Senate, and how do they feel about returning?
I think I asked them a lot about how they feel and how the faculty has felt overall and feedback that they have heard. For the most part, there's been mixed reviews. There's some that are super excited, some that as soon as we got moved to Red Tier, they went back on campus to teach smaller sections of their classes in person. Others have concerns about what it'll look like, especially if they're immunocompromised or if they live with family members who are. So there's been great excitement because they get back to the classroom, they get back to making those relationships and connections with their students. But they, overall, it's still a little concerning because there's no guarantees.
And I guess, is there anything else that you think students should sort of know about what this is going to look like or what their faculty will be experiencing next semester?
I think faculty are going to be overwhelmed no matter what happens, because even if they are in person, they'll be expected to teach in-person classes as well as their classes online. So they'll be accommodating to both in-class students and online students, even though the classrooms are equipped with cameras and everything to make it fully immersive. It's still going to be a challenge. I know I spoke to a couple of faculty members who are doing that already, and they said overall it's nice that they can still facilitate class discussions and that sort of stuff, but they're really trying to learn it as well. It's not something they've practiced. It's not something they ever thought they would have to do. So I would say be patient with your faculty. They're trying to figure it out, but no one expected this. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Joslyn.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I am Jacqueline Flores. I am a senior and a comm major in advertising and PR.
Okay, and so you wrote the article this week about how cooler weather could affect the transmission of COVID. What are some of the main concerns you heard from health experts and scientists?
Well, one of the main one is, since we are getting into the colder weather, one of their main concern is getting infected by COVID and possibly having the flu at the same time. So there has been a case proven in the Bay Area that two of the infections being together. So what they do recommend is to get the flu shot. So at least you know that you're good on one side and you're avoiding getting sick together, with COVID and the flu.
Right. And so that's one of the threats because we are moving into cold and flu season. But what does, if at all, does the climate do to the transmission of COVID?
So the thing is, with colder weather, there's lower humidity. So there's less airflow and all that. And especially people right now, obviously you have the chance to hang out outside with people. And now with colder weather, that turns more people to go in and hang out inside. And so when you're inside, you don't have that much airflow and everyone's in there. And, no one's really following the rules. So you have the chances of getting COVID that way.
And so on top of everything else, in the winter, we have a few holidays coming up. So what are health experts saying we should do to sort of celebrate the holidays without congregating and limiting the spread of COVID?
Well, they are for sure saying to have it at a lower capacity than usual. I know when you gather with family, it's more than probably 10 people. So they're saying less than 10 people. And if it is a must that you are gathering together, to wear masks and to social distance. And, or if you can just avoid it at all in general.
And so I guess as we're moving towards the spring semester where the university is looking to open things back up, what can students do to sort of safeguard themselves and their families?
So what they can do is wear a mask at all times if you're taking classes in person. to continue wearing your mask, and not just any mask, not a thin mask, but more of a thicker mask that actually will protect you, and to social distance. And they also advise to like students that do want that in-person like communication with their professors. They do also recommend to take some virtual classes online to avoid being exposed to so many people a week, especially if you're a commuter too. Like if you're going back home and you're seeing your family, that also like gives you a higher risk at being exposed to the virus versus if you take a couple of virtual classes, you're not being so exposed to like hundreds of people or like that. And then like whoever you were around, you don't know who they were around. It's just like a huge cycle. They also advise like if you are commuting with students, with other friends, do not get in a car with them, to like take your own car if you can, or if they do have a car with like windows and like what's it called, the sunroof, yeah, it's to leave it open, just because cars don't have like the correct airflow and ventilation.
And I guess, is there anything else you think that students should know going into the winter months? I
did get COVID, so I do recommend students to take this serious. I know we are like at the point where like, oh my God, we want this to be over, but I believe it is going to get worse, and we're not even at its like worst yet. And I do recommend you to like get the flu shot, as well as like our experts have recommended us to, and just to wear a mask and to social distance. Don't get gathered with too many people, and if you are with the same people, just continue to stay with the same people and wearing a mask.
And so you mentioned that you had COVID. Could you talk a little bit about what that was like for you?
So it was really crazy. I instantly felt it. I was exposed on a Thursday night. I started feeling the symptoms that Sunday. I got tested positive, and then it started with the itchy throat, and then headaches, and then like chest pains, and then cough. I lost my taste and smell, so that wasn't fun. The body aches, like what they say, are they're not like your usual body aches. It's like someone is invading your body. It's exactly how I felt, like they're in your bones. It's weird. It's not fun. That's why I say like keep practicing social distancing and wearing your mask, because it's really serious. And I know some people had been fortunate enough to like just get it for a couple of days, and like really minor like sickness, and it's not like that for everyone. Everyone, it gets different, and especially I guess there's like several strains, like 3. It depends what strain you happen to get infected by. But I feel much better now, and I'm still wearing a mask when I go out, and I avoid huge gatherings. And yeah, it's interesting. It's a different type of sickness.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me again.
Here's what else you need to know this week. Cal Lutheran Athletics, despite being the hardest hit in the university's staffing cuts, is gearing up to resume some NCAA sports by January 15th. Our reporter, Sebastian Gagnon, has the story. Next thing you need to know this week. Last week, Cal Lutheran named their first Community Scholars for Black Lives Fellows. The fellowship, inspired by the North Central University's George Floyd Memorial Scholarship, will provide students the opportunity to fight for social justice reforms alongside community leaders. Natalie Gutierrez has the story. All of the news discussed in this podcast can be found at cluecho.com. Thanks for listening.